So saturation region has some losses, but smaller. Active region is having it's a lossy region. We have already seen. See, the current here is more, and the voltage CE is also increasing. You are applying as high voltage as possible, and the current is also still not negligible. You can see the active region. The power loss in this active region is very high, but whereas the power loss in saturation is considerably low. But whereas the power loss in the blocking state, forward blocking state, is almost negligible or a zero. These are 3 points you can note down from this static characteristic. And these are dynamic characteristics. Dynamic characteristics. So static is nothing but once the IGBT is completely toned down, the IGBT is completely toned down. See, I'm using the word IGBT here instead of a switch. Please understand, both can complement each other. Switch is a general word or general terminology. It can be a MOSFET or IGBT. So, but we are discussing the characteristics of. So we have seen the static. Static means the IGBT can be completely toned on or toned off. But a dynamic characteristic during tone on and during tone off, that is what we are interested in. How is the behavior of the IGBT? That is what we are interested in. So current during the tone on and voltage during tone off has to be respected at any cost. The tone on current, because of the di by dt or the dv by dt, tone on current, just at this point of time, remember the tone on current is a very high because of the high di by dt. So the di by dt is basically due to parasitic inductances and capacitance. So the high di by dt, because of the high di by dt, the current can increase, and also because of the reverse recovery of the diode, the current can keep on increasing higher than the what is required by the steady state. So this current at any cost should not cross the maximum current mentioned in the IGBT data sheet, right? So that is what we are interested in. And similarly, in I was talking about the current in the second picture in this graph. You can see that the current is steeply increasing. It is going well beyond the steady state current. Steady state current, again, it is falling down and reaching the steady state current. You can see that, right? So this is the second picture I'm talking about. The first picture is showing the gate voltage here. So this is a gate voltage we're applying, and it is reaching a threshold voltage at some point of time. Although it is reaching threshold voltage, but we are still applying some more voltage to make sure it is completely toned on. So this is just generally a gate voltage. The first picture, the second picture is showing the collector current, and the third picture is showing the collector voltage here, collector emitter voltage. Correct. Now, see the third picture, the collector emitter voltage. It is initially high during the blocking state. Whichever voltage you apply, it blocks. It is initially high, and once it is toned on, it is falling suddenly to a zero, not zero, because it is not ideal. So it is falling to some lower voltage. These are during turning on. So during turn off, again, the collector voltage steeply increasing well above the DC voltage what you are applying. See the peak here at the end. The peak here at the end, you can see that this is due to the parasitic inductance again because of the LDI by dt, which is present because of this peak voltage. It is very important to respect this peak current in the second picture, and the peak voltage in third picture. Right, these two must be respected during the while designing the IGBT, while selecting the component, while selecting the IGBT. So the safe operating area must be respected. And one more thing, this is nothing but the safe operating area. What we discussed before is the safe operating area. You must not cross the currents and voltages at any given point of time, as indicated by the manufacturer, right? In addition, there is a short circuit characteristics which I am not discussing at this point of time. We will discuss later. Usually, semiconductors are having a low thermal time constant. Suppose you are operating the switch continuously on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So the operating temperature, if you keep turning it on, the operating temperature, suppose there might not be a problem if you're turning it on and off, on and off, on and off during the steady state. But if you are completely turning it on, or if you are turning it on, if you're not selecting the switch properly, so that the power loss is very high, or the heat dissipated is very high, so the temperature or the heat dissipated might exceeds the maximum junction temperature specified by the manufacturer of it. Thermal time constant must be respected. You should turn it on and off, no problem. You select the component such that as desired by the load, as desired by the application. That is very important here. So if your heat sink is not proper, heat sinks is nothing but the component which is used to cool the IGBTs or switches. or if your coolant is not proper, then these IGBTs are prone to damage. So if you want more information, if I'm going deep, then please ask me at the end of the session, then I might answer. Yeah, these are the few. These are the few manufacturers of IGBTs and MOSFETs. Of course, there are many. Of course, I have shown only few important players in the market. Right. So one is the Infineon, makes very good IGBTs, and then and Mitsubishi. Infineon uses a field stop trench. Suppose if you have used already in your laboratories. Yeah. And Mitsubishi is they use, I think, CSTBT technology, and then QG and Semicron, and they also make the IGBTs, and then ABB is also have their own IGBTs. Right. So this picture here is showing this example of the three phase. I have taken this picture from the Mitsubishi. So you can see the one side you have the two thicker copper terminals, and the other side you have a three thicker copper terminals, that is AC, and whereas the two thicker copper terminals is the DC. So this is an inverter module, or this is a six pack. Generally, we call as in industry terminology we call it as six pack, or this is an inverter module. You can also say inverter module. So this is a DC to AC. So whereas the DC inputs are the two terminals which you can see at the side, in the first picture, and whereas the AC input you can see at the other side, I mean back side of the picture, the three AC terminals. So below the schematic, if you can see, so along with this IGBTs chips, and there are anti-parallel diodes also in this module. So there are the IGBT is nothing but a chip. You must note that. So there are 12 chips that are present inside this module, which includes the IGBT as well as the diodes. Right. So the gate and gate emitter terminals, where do you control it? So you might be wondering, where do you control it? Where are the terminals of the gate and emitter? So you can see some small pins coming out, protruding out. So at the front side as well as at the back side. So these terminals are the control terminals or the gate emitter. The second picture also the same. Second picture is also the same inverter module or six pack IGBT module. So whereas you can see, if I see, whereas you can see the three terminals at the front side is nothing but the AC terminals, UVW, or you can say it is UVW, the three terminals on the front side. Whereas the back side, there are two terminals each on the, those are nothing but the DC plus, DC minus, DC plus, DC minus, DC plus, DC minus. So you can connect it externally all together by using the DC bus capacitor, by using a sandwich DC link or a DC bus capacitor. So that is the one. So you can see at the back, the DC plus minus, DC plus minus, DC plus minus. All these pluses can be interconnected, and all these minuses can be interconnected. You must note that externally by using the bulk DC capacitors. Usually the DC capacitors are placed at the DC bus to maintain the stable DC voltage. Right, now the role of power electronics in electric vehicles. Yes. So electric vehicles, you all know electric vehicles is having electric motors, and these are different from the IC engines. IC engines is nothing but the internal combustion engines. What is existing today? You see the cars it now all running on the diesel and petrol vehicles, right? Petrol, and but these electric motors, the supply is electricity. So this electricity, usually you need a power electronics again to get the desired electricity or desired electric output uh, from the battery. You'll have a lithium-ion battery here. This electric motor is propelled by the inverter or controlled by the inverter, a power electronics converter. Right. So inverter usually supplied with the DC electricity. Note, this is a battery source or a battery pack which is placed under the vehicle. Generally nowadays, I mean, you can see the cars. So the battery pack is placed under the vehicle at the bottom of the vehicle, right? So this battery pack is in turn is charged through some onboard charger, which we have already seen one typical example application. So onboard charger. So I will show you next slide. So you'll have the picture of the onboard charger block diagram. Right. So there can be another DC-DC converter, which we have also seen that to supply other loads like lightning or other small motors to recharge the auxiliary battery. This is the power. There are a lot of power electronics used inside the vehicle, e-vehicle especially. One is for the inverter for a powertrain. Yes, this inverter cannot. It can be one, or it can be two, or it can be four. It depends on the manufacturer. It depends on the OEM car manufacturer, right? So And second thing, this onboard charger, again another power electronics converter, apart from the inverter, and one more DC-DC converter for auxiliary load. These are the three basic power electronic converters in the e-vehicle, but there can be n number varies from manufacturer to the car manufacturer to car manufacturer. If the car manufacturer needs another power electronic converter for other loads, then the e-vehicle is fully dependent on the power electronic. It's a basic e-vehicle, so you can see here, you can see the battery pack is lying at the down. So you can see the DC-DC converter, the position of the DC-DC converter here, and the traction motor, the electric traction motor, and the battery pack, which is at the down. You can see the traction battery pack, which is indicated in the first picture. And the charge port is a connector where we use, where we give the AC to this charge port. And onboard charger, you can see the placement of the onboard charger. That's the onboard charger, right? Small one, the bluish color one. And the power electronics converter, that is the main drive that controls the motor, that provides the control input to the motor. Actually, that is the main traction inverter. It's onboard charger, and then you have the cooling systems here, right, which are nearly placed to these converters or under the converters. Coolant is a liquid coolant usually used. It's a water plus glycol mixed, this coolant. So in the second picture, you can see the block diagrams where all what, right? So you can see the onboard charger and DC-DC converter here. CAN bus is the main communication used in this car vehicle, right? From one unit to the other unit. Onboard charger, DC-DC converter, as well as the battery management. Also, you have the power electronics, AC compressor. You have one more power electronics. So AC AC. So you have the inverter AC generally in the cars. You have one more power electronics with the AC along with the AC compressor. So a lot of power electronic converters inside, apart from the main traction inverter. So you can see the main traction inverter also, which is communicating in the CAN bus at the top of the slide. You can see. So this is about the block diagram. So you have a lot of power electronics in the EV. So this is a block diagram of a typical onboard charger. I present you the onboard charger only for time constraint. So onboard charger, this is the example. You can see the grid voltage. Here our grid voltage might vary. The 230 volt AC, or so we just put the 85 to 265 volt AC, depends on the country to country. The standard basically. There is a filter, EMI/EMC filter. Its regulations is defined by the standards or by the customer or by both. We have to meet the requirement. And there is a PFC converter. I already told you the importance of the PFC converter, or sometimes we call it the PFC converter is nothing but this includes the rectifier as well as the PFC part, both. So the rectifier plus PFC, this PFC converter, purpose of this one is to shape the line current, so as to take the good input from the supply, and then the inverter plus high frequency transformer plus rectifier and the DC-DC. These are stage 2. So this onboard charger is having AC to DC stage as well as the DC to DC stage. Again, this DC to DC, I mean the DC to AC as well as the AC to DC through a high frequency transformer. So finally, this will be charged, and the battery will be charged through this converter. The typical block diagram, the standard block diagram. Right now we are using. Anybody uses the onboard charger like this. The converters might vary. The topology, the controller control topology might vary based on the organization to organization, but the typical block diagram of the onboard charger. Yes, these are the inputs to the hardware designer. You get the input voltage range. You have seen the previous slide, 85 volt to 265 volt, and then you also have the desired output voltage range. What is output desired output voltage range? During this voltage only the battery is able to charge. So desired output voltage range also you'll get it. Output current range, you'll get it. How much current it takes, what is output current? I mean, you'll get some range because the battery cannot take the constant current at particular moment. So when it is charging, so it takes the less current. I mean the current. So the output current range will be specified. The ampere into hours, right? So as the time goes on, the ampere reduces. The battery current reduces. The output current range is mentioned by and efficiency of the converter is usually mentioned by the customer. And power factor is very important, and THD is very important. These two factors are decided by the input stage 1. That is where the stage 1 comes into picture. So the input rectifier is important to shape the line current or to determine the power factor of the THD. Ambient temperature and what conditions these converter would operate. customer will do. So apart from these basic inputs, apart from this, we must respect some ACQ standard for the components. All the components we use in the car or the e-vehicle must be respected by the automotive qualified standards. And we must also respect the MIMC regulations from IEC standards for automotive. There are some protection circuits as per the customer requirements we must use. So it is not just the input output, the converter alone. So we must provide the overcurrent protection. Suppose if there is short circuit, we must provide short circuit to this converter, protection to this converter, and not just this converter. Suppose if using the power supply to this converter, I've already seen there are. So we must provide the overload protections to this converter and under voltage protection to this converter. So a lot of protections are required as per the customer requirements, and there might be other requirements as well. So I just given a glimpse of what you get as an input to the hardware designer, but there are many inputs. This is just a 200 or 300 page document which covering the standards, the regulations, as well as the, yeah, this is the evolution in the field. You can see this is a typical inverter. That was the earlier inverter. You can see in the left hand side the picture one. That is a 200 kilowatt. Now utilizing SIC, this is a future. Utilizing SIC, I mean reduced 2 kg and the size is reduced by 20% approximately. That's a 200 kilowatt. But now that is a hybrid SIC, which I was talking about. Diode is only hybrid. But whereas now utilizing full SIC, you can see the size of the inverter as well as this reduced by approximately 4 kg from the earlier from hybrid. So overall, it is reduced by 6 kg and then approximately 30% reduction in size. Right. So it can give more power output as well, 220 kilowatt, not just the 200 kilowatt. So this is how the evolution is going on. The evolution is going on from the SI silicon MOSFETs or silicon IGBTs or to the wide band gap materials like silicon carbide and gallium nitride. So the right hand side, the picture shows the Delphi. I mean, that is the Delphi one Delphi technology, which uses the SiC, I guess, SiC or gallium nitride. This is the three-phase inverter, of course. I'm not sure if it's three-phase or a single one, dual pack. This is one thing. But the other one is so far we are introducing the battery is very less voltage so far. But even if the battery is higher, but it is limited to 400 volt as of now. But introduction of 800 volt battery to reduce the charging time, which might ask for a different converter topologies. This is how the evolution is going on. There is some drawback that we hear generally. So if the 400 volt battery pack, if you are using it, is a bigger, and then insulation around the cable, the cable has to be bigger in size, which have some limitations. But whereas using the 800 volt battery, so which might considerably reduce the cable size as well, and it might reduce the charging time as well. So this is the future. This is considering 800 volt batteries. Improvement in the power module packaging. So I have already seen the previous slide, a Delphi package. You also have this thing. The power module package also keep on reducing. The chip size is reducing. The materials used inside the power module packaging is also. So I can say now, you can see now, Denso, this is a 2008 and now introduced by Toyota, so which includes the heatsink as well, I guess. And then Honda package is much smaller. You can see the Delphi in 2010, a single IGBT and package, it's not a six pack. And Bosch also in 2013 and Mitsubishi 2014. So integrated all the six IGBTs and six pack IGBT or diode, which also include in the cooling fin or a heat, and it's a direct substrate cooling also. So this is how evolution of power module towards higher integration in the power density. Earlier we have the two dual pack, single IGBT and single diode. Now 6 IGBTs and 6 diodes in single package we can see along with the heatsink. There are some IGBT modules which also includes the gate drivers as well, which are called intelligent power modules or smart switches. We don't see that now, but we don't use often in automotive sector because of reliability issues. But in the industries, we do use that. IPM or intelligent power. Can you move to the next slide, please? Yes, your career path. Suppose if you are entering as a fresher, power electronics is not just subject itself, but you need to understand a different other subjects also. You need to have some grip on the analog circuits, although not deep. You need to have a basic of known semiconductor devices, just as we discussed for the switches. Just a brief introduction or all-round knowledge of all these subjects is necessary. Control systems is necessary, magnetics is necessary, and emissions for the drives, powertrains, and numerical simulations where we perform the number of simulations in either PSpice or PSpice or MATLAB, etc. The power electronic covers a overall engineering background, electrical engineering background, I can say. These are the different subjects power electronic need. One needs to understand the power electronics. So why did I say that all the subjects? Because you have the opportunities in many fields, even if you have the one subject knowledge for the power electronics. So this is by 2030, most of the electricity needs to be driven through the power electronics, whether automotive or the railways or the medical or aerospace, renewable, consumer or home appliances, UPS. So 80% of the needs are driven through the power electronics. You must note that. So these are the prospective fields which I have just read it out. The automotive now is a booming one, and consumer or home appliances, everything is going inverter based now. Inverter based air cons, inverter based refrigerators, inverter based grinders or mixers. You can see that. And renewable, so you have the solar. So you have the wide range of opportunities in different fields. And railways is a major field apart from the automotive. You can see a lot of IGBTs used by the railways. The railways has gone go beyond actually. So these are the higher voltage IGBTs used. Higher voltage switches are used. Railways is a typical example, which uses 3.3 kV IGBTs or 6.5 kV IGBT. And medical, you have X-ray systems, MRIs, all needs power electronics. All needs power electronics. MRs, magnetic resonance, MRIs, and X-rays, everything needs a power electronics. Aerospace, you have a power electronics. And renewable, you have a solar inverter, wind inverters. So there is a wide prospective field for a power electronic engineer apart from the automotive. So there are different other fields where you can look into the opportunity. So entry level, so if you entered as a design engineer or as a trainee, so you can move to the design engineer in quicker time, and then simulation engineer or hardware engineer or power supply designer or a verification engineer or a system engineer. So this can be entry level. So for you, and a mid level, so you can get into the senior engineer position in the power electronics as well as and next and a design lead, or you can move to architects and a principal engineers. So this is how you can enter your career and then mid level as well as the top level. So these are the few references I have taken. So fundamentals of power electronics by Ericsson, and then power electronic converters application and design by Mohan Andilan. And there is application manual I have referred by Simicron. And there are some other application notes by Mitsubishi as well. These are the references, few references which I have used in the overall PPT.